It's very unrealistic. It's very unrealistic for textbooks to actually catch up. And then often we use textbooks as core curriculum. We take a textbook, chop it up into pieces, and that becomes the curriculum of the course. Whereas it should not be like that. The course should be designed and a textbook should be found based on the needs of that textbook. Instructors cover textbooks selectively. We don't use all the chapters, do we? And students get very upset. They say, I paid all this money, and now you're just using the textbook partially. The other significance is that students do not read textbooks. Today, we have students, their attention spans are very, very short. The other environmental impact is that we have deforestation, carbon emissions, production, transportations, etc., adding to the significance of this problem. Sustainable alternatives should be, we should go for zero textbooks, meaning eliminating the textbook and creating something, maybe an open educational resource or making use of educational resources. So, open educational resources, if we take that route, use a source that already exists, then we can look at retain, reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute, taking that particular available resource. So we have that option. Now, you can find this in various sources. I'm not going to share that, but here's another piece of reality. 36.1 million learners have used OpenStax. This is promising, actually, to use OERs, open educational resources. Now, my research was to gain a deeper understanding of the zero textbook experience of an instructor and determine the practical consequences. So that's what the question was. I used a cultural diversity course at graduate level, asynchronous. So we had to have cognitive and social presence during these courses. So given this reality, I had two options. One was to write a textbook through Pressbooks. There is a software that you can use to create your own textbook. You can write a textbook. And some of my colleagues were already doing this. For example, in my research course, I've already started writing a textbook based on my so many years of experience. Or the second option is to locate public resources and, of course, pay attention to the copyright factors. So to design a course, an online course, first we have the basics, of course, the fundamental aspect of it. You have to take notice of the digital integration through at multiple levels, theoretical, pedagogical, and methodological. And then you have to pay attention to universal design for those students that may have disabilities. And then you have to create, in this course, experiential learning cycle. What are students experiencing graduate level in the field that they can share with each other? And then quality matters, a higher education rubric that I use as a checklist. It's the golden benchmark of creating an online course. So I'm using this to create my course. Have I missed anything? Is everything organized? As Dr. Bergdahl said, there is an orientation, and you have to let students know what each course contains, so that, because I mean, learning online is kind of difficult, especially if it's asynchronous. It's very challenging. So here's the process. So I revisit the course objectives before I find the resources to eliminate the textbook. I update my learning objectives, Bloom's taxonomy. I develop modules. I do learning objectives and I develop the modules of the course. This is before I locate the resources or I write a textbook. I have to create the skeleton of the course. Now this is flexible. So you have to do extensive research on what your learning objectives are to be able to create that, find that resource. or create that OER at different levels, local, state, national, international, which is borders. And then you have to look at all the materials that are available, collect them, OERs, peer-reviewed journal articles, computer files in video format, public domain materials, etc. And then I did once I found all these materials, I put it together, I put it on a huge table, and then I did a keyword in context. I used that method because I had cultural diversity, I had my learning objectives, so I said, what materials are compatible with my course learning objectives? So that was the most important part. The flexible part was when I was analyzing the materials to determine their compatibility, I used analytical memos and hypothesis coding. Hypothesis coding is you really know what to expect because you're the expert. I'm teaching cultural diversity, so I look at the text and I say, I know what to expect. I could have restorative practices, I could have competencies, whatever the case is, I can use it. And analytical memos, I look at all these materials and I analyze them as an expert. Whatever your topic is, you can do this easily as well. And then member checking is I contacted my colleagues and said, what do you think? Is this compatible with the course that we're teaching? The learning objectives are listed. We've done this before. So these materials that I identified, OERs that I identified, are they compatible with the modules that we determined? And then we implement and pilot the course. So that's what we did. And then once we did this, we collected data from the students and observed the students as we taught asynchronously. This course is an asynchronous one. It's quite challenging, but then again, that's what we did. So we gave students questionnaires, and as instructors, we also observed their behavior as to what they were doing with these materials, because there were lots of it wasn't a textbook. It was just a multitude of different various materials from here and there. So we had 3 instructors and we had 7 courses. We were all teaching cultural diversity at graduate level asynchronously. We, for the 2 courses, we gave 27 students. We more or less have 15 to 20 students in one course. We gave 27 students questionnaires saying, you know, open-ended, how do you like this? What do you think about these OERs? What do you think about these materials? And then collecting their questionnaires, we did again, keyword indicator. We used the method to thematically analyze their responses. And then we used each other as intercoders for reliability and validity. So for questionnaires, students, their motivation was up because they were looking at different materials and it was free, rather than looking at a textbook knowing what was about to come. And then they had updated knowledge. It wasn't like, okay, this book is not dated, it's outdated, so what are we going to do? And they were easily connecting with other students. I mean, with a textbook, they could probably do that as well, but there was a lot of motivation and connection, interconnection. And the other thing was their affective and cognitive measures of empathy was developing because we were using current materials from all over that was appropriate to their learning objectives. And they loved the zero textbook approach because they didn't have to pay for it and they were learning current knowledge. From my side, from my side, I looked at their dialogues, discussions, dialogue, I call it dialogues because there was more interaction. I could see this. I could see the difference between textbook approach and no textbook approach. What they were doing is they were just, I had to say, okay, we have to stop and carry on. They were looking at these, and it became a collaborative environment and learner content actually was empowered. So an increase in cognitive and social presence, as Dr. Bergdahl indicated. So this is cost saving, accessibility and inclusivity, content flexibility and adaptability. You can change. You're not dependent on a textbook. It has environmental benefits and it promotes equity, accommodates diverse learners. So what you do is you can work with different faculty. There's collaboration. There's training and ongoing support beyond borders. I can work with other people around the world. Faculty incentives, grants, integration into curriculum planning, and awareness of ethical use of digital platforms. So the challenges are sometimes the links are broken. That's quite challenging, and it has happened. And you have to overcome barriers like copyright issues. But because you're teaching, normally copyright is okay unless you distribute it and sell it to the students. And future implications are, we think zero textbooks are good. They help students so they don't have to pay a lot of money. And there's collaboration between educational institutions, publishers, government agencies. I don't think the publishers like this, but that's okay. Okay, so generative AI is revolutionizing education and opening new doors to sustainable alternatives. We're able to do this now with Gen AI. I've been able to, I work with ChatGPT to create textbooks as well. You can do it or you can use the software. Thank you again for your attention. Any questions, any comments?